Hello everyone. So today I'd like to show you how KTT can handle an environment like this with this patch of loose rubble that is interacting with this very detailed rocky cliff, and more generally how you can incorporate like displacement textures from like Quixel maps and such into your environment without having to worry about those details getting smushed around by erosion and other processes. This is a good example of the precision that KTT allows you to have when creating your terrain. So in Houdini, I have this very basic scene set up. So I just have a mountain that I've scaled up a little bit and moved to the side. And this will just be our basic slope. So I'm going to start by applying a displacement texture to the terrain. And this displacement texture will uh, add a lot of like rocky detail to the sides of this slope that we have here. It's very hard to get discernible rocky detail completely procedurally, so I knew this was something that KTT had to have support for, which is using displacement textures to get extra details, and it does it in a little bit of a clever way. I want to circle back to our pre-ref board here. So we'll be using this texture from Quixel. The exact texture doesn't matter, but this is the one that I'm using. It's like this rather, it's got a bunch of these like chunky stratified shapes. It's pretty cool, but again, any will work. So I've got it loaded up here, and in the KTT displacement node, we are going to just drag it into this image texture slot, and it'll copy over. And when we preview this, we can see that our height field has been augmented by this texture. Now for visualization purposes, I'm going to turn this height field smoothing up to 1. Basically what this does is this removes any of the fine details from our original terrain, and this will just help us see the displacement a little bit clearer. The second thing I'm going to do is I'm going to remove this clipping from the displacement texture. We can see in our PRF that the texture has a fairly large dynamic range, so it is getting clipped off at some of these regions. So luckily there's a couple parameters for that. So that's the texture min and max value. So as we move that up, we can see that those clipping regions are now gone. And then the next thing I'm going to do is going to increase this normal smoothing radius. I'm just going to set it to 100. It's pretty big. Basically, KTT will displace the texture, not just up and down like you're usually used to seeing with height fields, but it'll displace it out from the normal of that height field. So that's what this normal smoothing radius is. It blurs essentially the normals of the height field so that you're getting a little bit more consistent direction. And if you remove this back, we can see we get a lot of that detail from the original terrain back. But I'm going to keep this at 1, I think, because I like how the raw rock texture looks. So this is quite handy for creating our slope details because we can see that the strata on these rocks they're kind of forming shelves instead of just little crevasses that would happen from just being displaced up and down. So this is quite useful to have. So after this, I'm going to add in a smooth fluvial erosion node. So this right now, our displacement has served to give us some basic cliff detailing or slope detailing that is fairly interesting. We'd hope it'd be because it's from like a scan texture, right? And it's well suited, importantly, for the cliffs that we have or for the slope that we have. It doesn't look like it's just kind of slapped on there. It feels a little bit more natural. So I'm going to connect this up to the smooth fluvial erosion. And when I preview the smooth fluvial erosion, we unfortunately see that much of the details that we just had have been lost. Oh no. Don't worry, there is a solution to this. Anyways, let's go to the rock tab here. So basically, rock is the material that the input terrain is composed of. So it's the material that the erosion solver is eroding into. And the softness is how malleable this rock is. So if I decrease the softness, we can see that the erosion is getting less and less strong, and more of these details are preserved. And as we increase the softness, we can see that the erosion is really not caring about the structure of the input terrain at all. And we can see very little separation from these loose debris flows and the actual rock that it's eroding against. Meanwhile, if we lower this, we can see a rather clear separation between these debris fields and the rock that's eroding into. So we want to preserve, ideally, all of the rock details that we just constructed, but also make it interact in a realistic way with the sediment flows that we have down here. So to do that, I'm going to turn our rock softness all the way up, which I understand is a fairly counterintuitive way to solve it. But KTT also has another feature that helps with this massively, and that's this bedrock. So when we check this, we see that we have essentially reverted our terrain back to the input terrain. But when we switch between these, we can see there's a little bit of stuff happening. So firstly, it looks like these little cavities are being filled in the erosion, and also the terrain has moved down slightly. So bedrock is the essentially a layer of material that cannot be eroded. So it exists a bit under the rock, right? Remember, the rock is just what this original terrain is made out of. And basically, if the height field is eroded to a depth where it encounters bedrock, the simulation will be just like, nope, nope, you aren't going to erode this any further. Move on, right? So everything just shifts around harmlessly on top of it. And we can see this a little bit more if we increase the bedrock depth. So what we have here is a bunch of sediment here that's kind of just been displaced off of these cliffs, been eroded off these cliffs, and it doesn't touch any of the details at all. So I'm going to go to the angle filtering tab, and I'm going to turn our talus angle up a little bit. That way we can match the look of our ref a little bit better. And this also gives a better visualization of how the sediment interacts with it. So this is cool and all, but why is this significant? Basically, this means that we can create this believable interaction between the details that we've crafted before applying erosion and the actual erosive effects that we've applied to our terrain. And to demonstrate this a little bit more, I'm going to increase the resolution by decreasing the grid spacing. And I'm going to let it cook. This is in real time, by the way, so it's already done. This is a 4K terrain. And we can see that we have obviously our displacement details transcribed onto this slope, but we also have this really neat effect where we have these sediment flows interacting with it, right? And this gives a much more believable structure to these slopes, right? Because generally speaking, you don't expect to see a lot of cavities in the terrain like this. They're generally either eroded away or filled up with something, which we can see here. This cavity has been filled up with sediment. And I particularly like how the sediment interacts with these little rock bits over here. I think it's pretty cool how they're creating that little, I don't know what to call it. It's almost like a conical shape. So I hope that was rather edifying. This is something that I've worked quite hard on in KTT, which is creating this very precise control over the terrain processes. I hope you enjoy playing around with this, and thank you for watching.